How difficult do you think this pitch is going to be?
I don't think it's that difficult of a pitch, Neil, because people are not paying attention to what the numbers are. These numbers are not going to add up. They're so big you can't even wrap your head around what it's really going to take to make this happen. We don't have enough wealth, and there's not enough tax to collect in order to pay for this. But I don't think that's what people pay attention to. If they did, we would not have the national debt that we do. Nobody's talking about we need to cut back on anything.
Looking hypocritical because a lot of this debt has been spiraling out of control under their watch as well. So who are they to start criticizing an Elizabeth Warren?
Well, it's just a political talking point. Donald Trump has
and these are gargantuan numbers by comparison anyway, but no one seems to be a prisoner to spending stringency.
Donald Trump has done a terrible job related to the national debt. It's no different than Barack Obama, and it just goes to show you there's not all that much difference between the parties in general when it comes to spending. Nobody has really been banging the drum related to fiscal responsibility, and there's a reason for that, Neil, and the reason is that the voters don't seem to care. If they did, people or politicians would be really mindful of making those things happen, but they just talk more and more spending.
Neil, can I push back on that for a second? Because he just said there's no difference between the two parties. I'd like to remind people that when Bill Clinton left office, we had a surplus. When Barack Obama came into office, we were in a huge deficit thanks to the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. When Barack Obama came out of office, he had actually taken significant steps to cut the deficit thanks to the sequester, those budget deals.
But our overall debt grew $10 trillion.
Absolutely, but that's largely due to interest payments on that. So when you talk about the budgets that have passed...
We can be nuanced all we want, but the fact of the matter is we have a long history. Well, you're not acknowledging the $10 trillion that we piled up in debt.
But that stemmed from the mistakes that a Republican president made that just kept adding on and
That's
on.
That's like me blaming a slow metabolism for being slightly overweight.
Well, Halloween was...
Tell me about it. Erin, the only thing that I'm wondering is, I have a hard time figuring, they always say the nominee of either party has to run back to the middle to do well in a general election. If it's an Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, would they have a tougher time doing that?
Absolutely. And I think also just from what we've seen on the polls that if you run back to the middle, they're actually less likely to beat Donald Trump when we look at how this election is going to play out. And so you need somebody that's a really galvanizing, strong force to have any chance of winning because the economy is doing so well. And Donald Trump really has those tailwinds behind him going into this election.
To her point, there's this pitch that the Trump folks are using, I'm not perfect, but better. I'm misplaying the words here, and that will be his pitch in the next fall.
Well, and I think part of that pitch, Neil, is related to what the economy is doing. Obviously, President Trump wants to take credit for that, and he's going to say, hey, you're going to run a big risk if you want to make a change right now. And can I just respond to Nathan? Are you actually trying to tell me that the Democrats are the party of fiscal responsibility?
Absolutely. I am saying that.
Well, I think that's crazy because we can go back in history, but if we look at recent history,
fiscal responsibility.
So let's these latest Trump tax cuts were definitely not fiscally responsible. I think we can agree on that.
Well, I don't know if they were fiscally responsible or not, specifically related to the cuts, but clearly the overall of what we're spending is the problem. The IRS is collecting more money in tax revenues than they ever have. The problem is on the other side of the ledger here, we just keep spending and spending. And the point I want to make is Barack Obama was running an annual deficit of $1 trillion each year, and Donald Trump is on pace to do the same thing.